Hello, Duke fans. Welcome in to the Duke Blue Devils Insider Podcast, your daily podcast for all things Duke Blue Devils athletics. We thank you so much for tuning in today as well as every day to get your latest on the Duke Blue Devils. My name is Hugh Strain, your daily host, as well as Duke beat writer at Duke Blue Devils on SI. Duke Blue Devils take down the Boston College Eagles 67-49 in a game that wasn't anticipated to be much. Duke improves to 21-1 on the season overall and 10-0 in league play. Boston College drops to 9-13 overall, 2-7 in ACC play. Now, Duke came into this game. It's at Cameron Indoor Stadium. Was never expected to be much of a game at all. Boston College isn't just one of the worst teams in the ACC. It's one of the worst power conference programs overall. According to the net and according to KenPom, the only lower-rated power conference team in college basketball is Rutgers, then Boston College, and Duke takes care of business at home. Was not the prettiest game by any means from the Blue Devils, especially in the second half, but granted, it didn't really have to be for the game. Duke shot 48% from the field, 28% from three on 5 of 18, and 14 of 20 from the free throw line. Held Boston College to 38% shooting, 25% from 3 of 5 for 20 clip, and just 9 free throws allowed to the Eagles. Cameron Boozer with a much slower second half, but goes for 19 points to go along with 12 rebounds and 5 steals. This is his 11th double-double of his rookie campaign with the Blue Devils on 9 of 17 shooting. Boozer still has yet to tally an ACC game under 50% shooting from the floor. Isaiah Evans attributes 12 points of his own on 4 of 10 from the floor, 2 of 6 from 3. And the Blue Devils get 13 points off its bench, led by Nick Hamenya with 6, Malik Brown with 4, Caden Boozer with 1, and Darren Harris with 2. Now, if you watch the game, you would have thought after the first 10 minutes that Duke could have won this game by 40-plus points if it really wanted to. The second half was probably the worst half of basketball that Duke has played all season long. And, I mean, this was an 18-point victory for Duke, but certainly could have been way more. I think at first glance, it's going to look worrisome in headlines. Duke really struggled in that second half total scoring. So Duke went into the halftime locker room with a 42-27 lead, scored just 25 points in the second half, won the second half scoring total 25-22 on the Eagles. That was Duke's worst scoring half in terms of total points of the season. Its previous worst was 31. And again, in headlines, I think it's going to show up that Duke had a really sloppy second half against Boston College. And again, it's one of the weakest teams in the power conference. Boston College is actually a very solid defensive team according to the computer numbers, but Duke had a really sloppy second half, did not put on a show. Did they just take their foot off the gas? Probably. Am I defending that if they did? No. I'm sure John Shire will be giving his guys an earful if the case was Duke just took its foot off the gas, which I think was the case, because Duke looked absolutely dominant through the first 20 minutes of this ball game, but nonetheless get the win. So in the first half, Duke shot just under 61% from the field, 17 of 28, 5 of 11 from 3. That's a 45.5% clip, and made 3 of its 5 free throws. In the second half, Duke shot just 31.8% from the field, was 0 of 7 from 3, took 15 free throws in the second half, made 11 of them, but was a very, very, very ugly second half. Like we just mentioned, season low 25 points in a half for the Blue Devils. Again, I'm not worried about it. I don't think it means that much. Boston College was a team Duke didn't have to worry about. I don't think it's ever a good idea to take your foot off the gas. Who knows if Duke did? Maybe it was just an incredibly sloppy half, but something tells me that took the foot off the gas a bit, probably let loose, knew this one was in its hands, and that's the end of the story. But, I think that'll come up in headlines, especially with what Saturday will present for the Blue Devils. Duke will take on North Carolina in the first edition of the best rivalry in college basketball this Saturday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern time against a North Carolina team that is kind of rolling right now and will definitely pose challenges for the Blue Devils. North Carolina up to number 14 in this week's AP poll. Again, coming off of this Boston College victory, it was more of a tune-up victory for the Blue Devils, figure out some things, get some things right, just kind of keep the legs warm, because North Carolina did not have a game on Tuesday night, faced off against Syracuse over the weekend, and they are off until Saturday's date in Chapel Hill with the Blue Devils again at 6:30 p.m. Eastern time. But North Carolina has put together a pretty solid stretch after a pretty rocky start to conference play. Started out 2-3 in league play, actually. Losses to SMU, Stanford, and California. When Duke went out to take its 2-game West Coast road trip against Stanford and Cal, it became the second ACC team to win both those games on that road trip against Stanford and Cal. Since those two teams joined the league last season, North Carolina lost both of those games, fell to Stanford 95-90, then fell to Cal 84-78 back to back. North Carolina has dealt with some serious defensive issues throughout the season, and it looks like a real serious issue. However, the Tar Heels have really bounced back over its last few games, currently on a 4-game winning streak heading into the rivalry matchup against Duke, with wins over Notre Dame at home, Virginia on the road, Georgia Tech on the road, and Syracuse at home. The offense has not been short in terms of scoring at a premium. North Carolina went for 91 points against Notre Dame, 85 points against Virginia. Georgia Tech scored 91 points and 87 points against Syracuse. Again, that's all over this same 4-game stretch for the Tar Heels. Tar Heels front court of Henry Vassar and Caleb Wilson is potentially the best front court in the entire country. Both those two. Now Cameron Boozer is tied in second in double-doubles in the ACC with his 11th of the season tonight against Boston College. But it's Henry Vassar and Caleb Wilson that came in leading the conference in double-doubles. Vassar with 12 and Wilson with 11. Now Boozer with 11 at the top of that list as well. But this game will propose probably the best freshman matchup college basketball has to offer, maybe not including AJ DeBonsa versus Darren Peterson, but they don't really match up on each other exactly. Caleb Wilson versus Cameron Boozer, again, the 3rd and 4th projected picks in the 2026 NBA draft, will likely be each other's primary assignment, and that is going to pose one heck of a matchup. Cameron Boozer has been the most productive player in college basketball, the most dominant player in college basketball, and is firmly the front runner for the National Player of the Year award, averaging over 23 points per game, almost 10 rebounds. Again, tallied his 11th double-double of the season. He leads Duke in every major statistical category, excluding blocks. But Caleb Wilson is one heck of a prospect and is a double-double machine. He's an extremely high-level athlete for the Tar Heels, can score in a ton of different ways, great shot blocker, and will definitely probably be Cameron Boozer's toughest matchup of the season. A really long 6'10 forward, and again, a supreme athlete at his size. So potentially the best matchup one-on-one college basketball has to offer, and probably the two best front courts in the ACC with Henry Vassar and Caleb Wilson, and then Boozer and one of Pat Gungba or Malik Brown, whoever you want to put there. But going to pose for a fantastic matchup. Duke has been fantastic on the defensive side of the ball in conference play, leading the ACC in opponent field goal percentage, just under 40%. And we've talked about it on previous shows, but early on in conference play, it just looked like Duke wasn't fully connected on the defensive side of the ball as a whole. That has changed as of late, when Duke had absolutely zero offensive execution in the second half tonight against the Eagles. Their defense still made it extremely difficult for Boston College to get anything going. Granted, Boston College is one of the worst offensive units in all of college basketball, according to the computer numbers. But at the end of the day, Duke made life very difficult, led with its defense, and at least showed that when offense is very hard to come by, whether they took their foot off the gas or there were just some issues on that end in terms of execution and scoring, showed that it can still lead with its defense and keep a pretty comfortable lead. And Duke had some big leads in this one. And late in the first half, it really felt like this one was going to get out of hand. Duke led by 20 at one point. That definitely could have been more. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Duke only goes for 7 offensive rebounds tonight. Granted, it didn't mean any of them, but assist on 15 of 24 shots, 10 steals, and forced 12 total turnovers from the Eagles that turned into 13 points for Duke. Again, bit of a tune-up game for the Blue Devils. Nothing much of substance, in my opinion, to really talk about. But on Saturday is the best rivalry in college basketball, and I can't wait to be watching it. 6:30 p.m. Eastern time in Chapel Hill, Duke versus North Carolina. Duke's been in control of the rivalry over the past 2 seasons. This is easily the best North Carolina team of the past 2 or 3 years. Should pose for a fantastic matchup overall, and the best one-on-one matchup college basketball has to offer. That's going to do it from us here at the Duke Blue Devils Insider Podcast. Just like every day, we thank you so much for tuning in, and make sure to check out si.com/college/Duke every single day to get your latest scoop on Duke Blue Devils athletics. My name is Hugh Strain, your daily host, as well as Duke beat writer at Duke Blue Devils on SI. Thank you guys so much once again, and I'll see you tomorrow.